Have you achieved success and a high income, but still lack personal fulfillment and work-life balance? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Successful But Struggling podcast. Join us as Erin, Eunicia, Joanne, and Mim share transformative insights and practical strategies just for you. Discover real stories and lessons that will elevate your personal satisfaction, professional accomplishment, and financial empowerment.
In this episode, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, energy. And it might seem so basic, but there are so many components to energy. And expert Dr. Joanne Sotelo, who is one of the most knowledgeable people I know, my amazing co-host, and also a psychiatrist and a coach. And we have so much to talk about on this topic of energy. And I would first love to hear from you, Joanne. How do you even define energy?
I love talking about energy as well. It's something that I talk about a lot. It's a pillar in all my coaching programs. And if you've been around me, you've heard me talk about energy. And I define myself as a high energy person. I am not always a high energy person, but I've internalized it into my identity. And I think that helps. And I love to talk about it with a little bit of a psychiatry and coach hat on in terms of capital E energy, because we tend to think of it as physical energy. And we talk about feeling fatigued and feeling tired and not sleeping well. And we also need to add to the tank of energy that it's also mental, emotional, and we can even say spiritual, not necessarily religious, but kind of how we connect to others and to our space and our environment. So those, again, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And this is important because one feeds the other. You've heard me say this before, that there might be times when you're physically tired, you were on call, or you have a kid who's sick, and then the next day something happens and you just feel out of sorts very quickly. Or you go to work and you're like in a good mood, your energy is good, and you open your email and there's this thing going on at work that affects you mentally and emotionally, and then all of a sudden you feel very tired. So the other thing that is important is that when you learn to feed one, the rest will benefit as well. So it's not just on the draining part, which is what happens automatically, but then we can also learn to feed it in a way that serves us. And we wanted to talk about energy because we both coach women physicians. And I'm sorry, this is something that comes up so often, so often. And it's not just the exhaustion that's related to burnout, it's on a regular basis that I hear that so often. I'm too tired. I don't have energy. I cannot sleep well. My body aches. And it's kind of sad because there are things that we can do. So that's part of why, obviously, you can hear my passion. We wanted to bring this topic to you all today.
And it may seem obvious, but I would like to hear the specifics, Joanne. Why do you think paying attention to energy is so important specifically for women physicians?
And like I was just alluding, yes, it is a big part of burnout. So it's important not just to prevent the burnout, but it's one that you can alert yourself for. If you look back to the last couple of days and you've been so tired, fatigued, exhausted for days, that tells you something, right? It's not just because you're having a rough day or you maybe that night you didn't sleep well. There could be something else going on that's contributing to your exhaustion. So that's a big one for us as women in medicine. As we know, the rates of burnout are so high. And like we've mentioned before, we need energy. We need that balanced energy to have that good harmony in the different aspects of our lives and personally and professionally. A lot of us, unfortunately, we focus on work because we feel like that's what's given to us. That's how our days are structured. And then we don't save enough energy for ourselves or our loved ones later in the day or even during the weekends. And we know it's not about the number of hours, but about our energy. because that's what's going to dictate how we show up, our presence, our mood, right? Like how many of us are cranky at the end of the day? And it's not like we're mad with our loved ones, it's because we're out of reserves. So any little thing will bother us. So that's very, very important. And that's a huge part of us taking care of ourselves and that sense of responsibility of our health and our well-being and all those wonderful things that we want to do requires that good balanced energy.
I love that. And what I heard you say is that it impacts our relationships, our energy does. And I know for myself, when I gave all the energy at the office, I was cranky for decades. And I think now, like, I'm so thankful my husband stuck with me all those years because when I recognized the impact that expending all of my energy and leaving no reserves for my family by the end of the day had a really negative impact on my marriage as well as my parenting. And that's one of my big motivators for working, especially with women in medicine. Many of them are parents, many of them are spouses. And one of the statistics that I share is that women in medicine have 1.5 times the divorce rate. Well, women physicians have about 1.5 times the divorce rate of men physicians age adjusted. And, the more of them if you work more than 40 hours a week as a woman physician, you have higher rates of divorce. So you have all of these things working against you. And if we can learn to mitigate, if we're aware of those circumstances, those numbers that are not in our favor, it can sometimes give us more of a motivator to say, "Oh, I better work on this. I better not leave." I call it the leftovers, the leftover energy for my family. What can I do to keep my energies leveled up for the end of the day when the people that are just as important, or if not more important than my patients, are waiting for me to come home?
Yes, Erin, and you're a beautiful example of those shifts that start small and create a ripple effect, and how you could see the dynamics in your house and your relationships change. And no, it's not overnight, it's not magic, but it's when we start seeing the results, it's easier to pay attention to it and work on it, because it's not easy, and our works are difficult. No one will take that away from you. And they are draining mentally and emotionally. That is a fact. And we can still learn to protect our energy. I'll add a note here, because a lot of times I talk about these topics and we're so enthusiastic and we have all the tools. And what the other person hears is, I'm already drained and you're asking me to do more things. And what your brain might be listening to is, I can't. And we wanted to specifically bring this up if you are in that place where you're so exhausted that you're like, I can't have energy. Like, don't tell me to do anything. So we're going to give you also, right? Like it's this planting the seeds of something that you can look forward to, because the last thing that we want to do here is suffer in silence or lose hope. So again, a little tangent here in case your brain is already telling you, please don't tell me something, to go on a run to improve my energy or to go into this green vegetable diet. That's not what we're going to do here.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, Joanne. What are some of the things that are realistic for women physicians and women in medicine to do when they are suffering from low energy levels?
So I will start with what I always say, that they ask me, Joanne, you're a psychiatrist and you're a coach. What's the magic? I will tell you the magic. And yes, this will sound challenging. We have to start with the basics. So I'm gonna go at it quickly because you all know this. We need to pay attention to our sleep, what we're eating, drinking more water, getting some sunlight, moving our bodies, whatever version of that looks like for you. So that I'm getting that out of the way because that's our responsibility. That's something that we all need to do. Now, if you are in that place where you are fatigued, you're drained, you're exhausted, please listen to me with a lot of love. you need to prioritize your rest and recovery. This is not a gift that you're going to give yourself if you do X or Y, or when at the end of the week, or when you take care of everything else. If you're in that place, you have nothing left in you to give to other people. So it's your responsibility to really pay attention to yourself, recognize your needs, and start there. Now, I'm not saying go on a spa for a weekend and leave your family behind, even though that does not sound like a bad idea. But it's also about the if you are exhausted, sometimes we just grab our phone and we stay on Instagram or TikTok for an hour when we could have been sleeping or even sitting with our legs up or spending time with our family. So if your brain is saying, I don't have time for that, challenge yourself and see where you can tweak your day to really prioritize that rest and recovery.
I love that, Joanne. And so much of the time when we're so exhausted, that's when it's so hard to make the decision. Am I going to meditate or am I going to watch a Netflix binge? Am I going to eat the ice cream because I need that or I think that that's what I need? Or am I going to take a rest or eat that healthy soup or whatever it is? And when we are so depleted, I know that's when I think, oh, I deserve this thing. And then if we have to take another layer of asking ourselves, maybe short term that's going to make you feel better, but long term, is that going to hurt or help you in your energy levels? So sometimes taking that pause, I know for myself, and asking that, is this really going to serve what I'm asking for, or not? So just my little 2 cents there.
Yes. And the other thing that we were joking about recently, but it's true, we need to adjust our expectations and our goals. As women physicians, we have this gigantic list of things that we need to do and that we want to do, and we feel like it's all on our plate. And sometimes part of it is true, but not always. Sometimes we wear this busyness as a badge of honor. Really need to pause and then say, what do I really need to do? What is this for? Are these external expectations? Are there internal expectations? And I joked in one of our recent episodes that a coach I had a couple of years ago said, do you want to feel better and more successful? Lower your expectations. And it's so true because and it taps also into some of the things that we were talking about recently in our last episode when we were talking about gratitude, and that we miss out on celebrations of all the things that we do. And that's magic for our energy when we pause and we celebrate the steps. And the only way that we can do that is by adjusting those expectations and our goals. We're really good at, having to-do lists that have 37 items and then believing that we have to complete them all. I'm guilty of that
That
sometimes.
perfectionism. And
Yeah.
one of the things I love that I've learned from you, Joanne, is the difference between perfectionism, which many of us are self-professed recovering perfectionists, versus precision. And we can certainly be precise, but we are not expected to be perfect. And so we can be precise, let go of some of that perfectionism, which is draining. Think of the energy it takes to work on being perfect. And what if we shifted those energies to having precision and other more important things? And that we talked about it 2 episodes ago about what do we need to let go of. And I encourage my clients regularly, can we let go of that perfectionistic need, and can we substitute something else like precision that serves us and our patients better?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's we need a tattoo of that precision over perfection, because done is how do we say, like, done is better than perfect, whatever it is that we say.
Yeah, done is better. That was a real good one out of one of my clients' mouths. Done is better than perfect. And when she practices the done, she's ready to let go of that perfectionism because she's having such great results and her family is totally benefiting from done is better than perfect when it
Yeah.
comes to charts. Absolutely.
Every time I do something that's right? Like not necessarily how I intended it to be, but it's done. I just say it out loud. I'm practicing done is better than perfect. Okay. And I
Yeah.
pat myself in the back and I like you talk so much. I like to say it out loud so it serves as a role modeling, especially in front of the physicians that I coach. So yes, that's definitely that's work in progress forever and ever, but it's all good. Um Something else that we also struggle with that we need to really pay attention, especially if we're at that place where we're low energy, feeling fatigued and exhausted, is we need to delegate and ask and accept help. I that is the two I need because I do that's one of my struggles, and I've learned to, when people ask me if I'm fine or if I need help, I've practiced asking it to myself again. Am I really fine? Do I need help? And because the automatic is, yes, I'm fine. No, I don't need help. And I resist it. I know that that's part of my work. And, and we're all independent women and we're smart and we're hardworking. And then and we can still delegate and we can still ask for help, especially if our energy is low. And the analogy I use in terms of this capital E energy is like a gas tank in a car. And some of you might have heard me say this before, where the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual energy goes there. And we learn to pay attention to what are our triggers. How do we know that that red light is on of go get gas? We need to learn that about ourselves. And if you only have an eighth of a tank, would you be running around doing favors for other people or taking care of everyone else? Or would you figure out how to get yourself to the nearest gas station so that then you can go do help other people? It's not like we're saying don't ever do things. It's not that selfish point at all. And we need to do the same thing for ourselves. So keep that analogy in mind and know when that red light is on, and it could be something different for everyone. What do you need to do to get yourself to that nearest gas station for yourself? What are those things? And then what are those things for you? Do you need to go to bed a little bit earlier? Do you need to, watch an airhead show like I joke about? Do you need to grab a coffee with a friend? Do you need to go get your nails done? Whatever it is for you, that's key, especially if you're in that place where your energy is lower.
And I love that analogy of the gas tank and when the red light comes on, because I think we are so unaware as women in medicine. And I've shared, I'm on the road, I'm in Costa Rica, and you can get around this tiny little town in a golf cart. So I've been driving around a little electric golf cart, and the gentleman that I purchased it from said, you never want to go below 3 clicks. So there's, I don't know, maybe 10 clicks of little lights that show how full is the electric battery. He says, never go below 3. That's when you need to stop and plug in. Don't get stranded. And I think, how much better could we serve ourselves, our families, and our patients? How much higher would our quality be if we learned to refuel at a half tank, even just put a little topper in the tank? Can we get better about refueling our tank throughout our day so we never hit empty, by closing our eyes for 2 minutes instead of staring at the screen, by getting some fuel, as you were talking about, some hydration? And can we reset or recalibrate our I'm empty at a higher level and get a little bit more in prevention mode instead of, oh crap, I'm running on fumes? And one of my clients I coached this morning talks about when she's down on empty, she's grumpy. You think her spouse doesn't know what that means? And it doesn't get the tail end of that, or the outcome of that. And so if we deplete ourselves every day and we show up grumpy every day for our spouse, is that really their fault? Or can we take more ownership and say, oh, Joanne's talking about all these different things that we need to pay attention for our energy. Can I pick one and follow through regularly? Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we always share a lot of tools here. So you have like different options in front of you, but pick one, practice it, see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, grab another one. That's what we're here for, and giving you different options. And the reminder that you have options, that our brain sometimes wants us to believe that we're stuck, and that, that fight or flight part of our brain gets activated, and we need to know, no, it's okay. Let me breathe into it, and let me remind myself that I do have options.
Yeah, the getting out of that, I call it the victim mindset and into empowerment, or what do I have agency and control over? Total game changer. Total game changer. I'm going to give a little recap here, Joanne. What I heard you say is that there's more to energy, the big E, than just how we feel physically. We need to make sure we're paying attention to what's our emotional, mental, and spiritual, in addition to the physical. And those all add up and impact each other for our state of energy. And then next is, it's so important to women in medicine to pay attention to this, because so oftentimes we ignore our own needs, and then that impacts our relationships and has this ripple effect. And that the things that we can do in order to impact our energy is paying attention to the basics: our sleep, what we eat, our hydration status, our exposure to sun, and our movement. And that if we can even prioritize one of those and start putting more gas in our tank regularly, that consistency, we can have a pretty low bar, but start somewhere and do it consistently. And you might be surprised at where you find your energy levels, and seeing if you get that gas tank getting a little bit more full every day instead of depleted. And with that, Joanne, I wonder, is there one more thing you'd like to share with our listener when it comes to their energy?
One thing that we talk a lot in our work as coaches is reframing our thoughts and those mindset shifts. And that is just as important here. So pay attention to the language that you're using to talk to yourself. And if those are filled with negativity, with insults to yourself, with guilt, see if there's an alternate thought that you can give yourself that will help you promote a more positive outlook, and will actually remind yourself of that positive energy, and a lot of self-compassion in how we do need rest, and releasing that negative energy and recharging with the energy that allows us to do all the things that we want to do.
So powerful. Thank you for sharing that wisdom, Joanne. And we would love to hear these messages, or we would love to have this message get in front of more people. And you have power. We just talked about where you have agency and power. You have some power over who listens to our message here on this podcast. And if you would like to have this message get in front of more individuals, more women in medicine, then please pause. Go to our show, scroll down a bit, and it'll say leave a review. If you haven't yet done that, please give us a rating. And if you're willing to, also leave a review. Give us some commentary about what you find as your favorite parts, or what you'd like to hear more of. And with that, stay tuned, and we will see you in the next episode.
Don't miss out on more strategies that will elevate you to new heights. Visit successfulbutstruggling.com now, where you'll discover exclusive resources and the opportunity to connect with each of us individually. There you can dive deeper into how you, too, can take your personal and professional game to the next level. And if you're serious about optimizing your results, take 2 quick steps now. Number 1, connect with us on the website. And number 2, tune in to the next episode.